Kevin Durant. There was the whole trade deadline stuff with KD, the possibility of him going back to Golden State before he put the kibosh on it. And I think this will be Kevin Durant's final 25 or 26 games with the Phoenix Suns. All right? But KD was on the Draymond Green podcast with Baron Davis, and he talked about why he did not want to go back to Golden State. Dan, the question I have for you simply is, do you buy it?
I believe a certain part of it, right? Like, whether KD wanted to stay in Phoenix, I don't think that that's the case. The first time that Ishba put him on the block, it was a wrap. So for him to now come back and say, oh, well, I'm just going to ride this out. Nah, where the season's been going. It hasn't been going right. They've lost 8 of their last 10 games. I mean, the fact that now you're 3 games back on the Sacramento Kings to even have a chance at the play-in right now says how bad the season really is. And frankly, he's played his last game, as you said, in Phoenix. I mean, the end of this season is going to be his last game in Phoenix. There's no way that he's going to come back after that. Now, if you want to talk about him actually wanting to go back to Golden State, it's hard to tell. Like, I feel like some of the things he said was true. Like, it's going to take a big haul, but obviously the Golden State Warriors are willing to do that. I don't think he wants to revisit what he's already been through. And he's already won rings and had a dynasty in Golden State. No reason to go back there. I think now he's looking forward to how am I going to fill out the rest of this career and how can I end on my own terms. I feel like that part was valid.
I agree with you on that part. He has a basketball ideology on the way that he thinks the game is supposed to be played. I'm going to back up for a second because I think we have to revisit Kevin Durant as basketball player who's been snake bitten. And we think of it in like a very simplistic, minute way. But think about it like this. I'm going back to 2012, Dan Titus. We're going to do the timeline, right?
OKC.
2012 in OKC. They go to the NBA Finals. They're really young. They lose to the Miami Heat. Series they had home court advantage, and they won game 1, lost the last 4. 2013, this is where it starts to get really wonky. James Harden gets traded at the start of the season. He's gone. They don't get the return that they should. Russell Westbrook gets his leg banged into by Pat Beverly in the first game of that, or the second game, or whatever, third game, I think, of that first round series. They survive that Houston series. They lose to Memphis in the second round. I think they lose in 5 to the grit and grind. KD had virtually no help in that series. If Russell Westbrook is healthy, maybe we're talking about something completely different. Maybe they have James Harden. We're talking about something completely different. That's snake-bitten 1, right? The next year, 2014, they lose to the Spurs, which is maybe the greatest Spurs team of all the Spurs championship teams. They lose in 6. They game 6 in overtime in Oklahoma City. Maybe that's not quite as snake-bitten as everything else, but I still think as far as going in from 13, you had the best team in the league, I think, all season long, and then that happens. And then 14, you're supposed to try to get it back, and then that happens. 15, he has the Jones fracture in his leg, in his foot, right? The Jones fracture is the thing that ends the careers of Bill Walton and the 7-footers with awkwardly built bodies, right? And we don't think of Kevin Durant as being snake bitten with his body, but that was the first thing. And we don't think about it because he came back with a vengeance, right? But that was a championship type of year that was lost. They didn't make the playoffs that year because they couldn't, it was just Russell Westbrook and a bunch of dudes, right? 2016, we know what happened there, right? I still see Klay Thompson's shooting above Russell Westbrook, who didn't even put a hand up. That's neither here nor there, right? Neither here nor there. 3-1 lead. That was one of the most compelling and impactful Western Conference Finals that we've ever seen because of everything that's happened there. 17 and 18, they win the championship. He goes to Golden State, catches hell for it, right? 19, he has the Achilles. They win that series walking away, Dan Titus, if he doesn't get hurt.
I mean, toe was on the line. Kyrie was hurt.
No. Even before then.
That's not even that.
Talking Golden State when he tears his Achilles against the Raptors. Or 19, excuse me. 19. Right? And for people, and I know I'm going long, people like to make it seem like the Golden State Warriors did not need Kevin Durant for 17 and 18. The hell they didn't.
1,000%.
Yes, they did. Y'all tripping. Like, we like to do revisionist history and be like, man, Golden State didn't need Kevin Durant to win the rings. Yes, they did. They wouldn't win a damn thing if Kevin Durant won there. Neither than one of those years, right? And then you go to, you get the Achilles, so you miss the next season. You come back, like you said, Dan, toe on the line. I don't think they win the title that year, Dan, because James Harden had the hamstring, Kyrie Irving had the ankle, and you don't get healthy on a hamstring by playing. James Harden was like a shell of himself in that series. Maybe they beat Atlanta in the conference finals. They wound up losing to Phoenix in the NBA finals, and we have to live in a world where Chris Paul is the champion. Not sure if that's the world I want to live in. And then everything else that's happened since, the MCL, the trade, everything else. We don't think of Kevin Durant being snake-bitten, but I just went through a litany of things that I've said. Man, if one of those things breaks right, we look at him totally different. So I understand. That's a long-winded way for me to say, Dan, I understand why he wants to have agency over his career. Because if he gets traded to Golden State this year, you know what he's doing this summer? He's asking for a trade out of Golden State.
Yeah. So that means that he has an idea of where he wants to go anyway.
Absolutely.
Could we be seeing him in Dallas potentially?
That's like I'm gonna say pipe. That's not pipe dream. That's not the right word. I don't know if Dallas has the draft capital that Phoenix would want. Remember, Phoenix gave up a lot to get KD.
Dallas has like 7 first rounders through 2031. They got a couple.
Is that going to be enough? And with the money that he makes, you got to match money.
It's the money. The money thing is the bigger thing for me.
I'm all for watching Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis try to figure it out together. And then Nico Harrison being like, how you like me now? Like, I would love to see something like that, right? Just because everybody wants to hang Nico Harrison in effigy and all that type of stuff.
The master manipulator finally gets his way. Nah. Yeah.
$50 million. Like that type of thing, right?
Right.
But if the one thing I will say, if I'm Kevin Durant, I don't know if I want to go back to Golden State either. It's too much scar tissue there. You're on Steph Curry's team. Everybody says you can't win without Steph Curry. And even if you go there and win again, then people are saying you can't win without Steph and Curry. That's kind of beneath him at this stage of his career. He's a basketball savant, I think.
Yeah.
He has an idealistic way of the way that he wants the game to be played. People have said, KD, go get your own team. And he's tried to build his own team in all these other places. It hasn't worked, but he's doing what we've demanded that he do. And that's the unfortunate thing, because our demands, Dan, have you noticed what we demand of players seems to shift and change as our wants shift and change? Wait a minute, I'm doing all the things you asked me to do. You said get a championship. Well, we didn't want you to get a championship that way. We didn't want you to join that team. What you want me to do?
He's literally checking all the boxes. I mean, he's one of the most prolific basketball players that we've seen in this era next to LeBron James, right? And for him to have the championships now, he's got the gold medals. He's the best Olympic player we've ever seen. I mean, what more does he really need to do? And I think it's great that you actually ran down that list of awful scenarios that just wind up going against him. Because if one or two of those things break the other way, we're having a different. I don't even know if we're having a different conversation, because KD is KD. I think he has the most respect amongst his peers in the league. I mean, kids still idolize him for what he's done, despite not having the success that we as the general public think that he should have had. But I mean, this guy's been doing nothing but just winning basketball games, going to a different spot, doing the same thing, and it just hasn't worked out in the scenarios that he's kind of been put in. But if he has control of where he goes this summer, I think that could be a great way to go out, depending on if he gets into the right situation. But if he's dictating it, I think that will really help.
Hey, look, man. I don't think it's going to be Dallas. I think there's another city in Texas that could be very interesting.
Houston.
The Rockets have young players and draft picks and capital.
They do.
And you're going to look at them in the playoffs this year. And you're going to say, man, they were 3rd seed or 4th seed or whatever. And then you're going to watch them in the playoffs. And you're like, man, who are they giving the ball to when it comes down to it? Like, you got all these plucky pieces, but you're like, man, they need an anchor. They need a system that they can sort of, rely themselves around and turn themselves around. That could be Kevin Durant. Like, I feel like Houston is there is a wild card place. I don't want to say it yet. But there's a wild card place that I think could be in play for Kevin Durant this summer, depending on how salary cap implications and how this team's run through the playoffs plays out. But I don't want to say it just yet. What I will say is
Houston seems like a good fit, though. So I'm curious who your dark horse is.
I'll tell you when we go to commercial. I ain't gonna put it on wax. Are you crazy? You know what these people are going to do to me if I say this? Absolutely not. And I don't want them to say it to Kevin Durant either. Like I'm gonna keep that one tucked. But then if he winds up going to this place, I'm like, oh, that's what Vinny was talking about. They're like, oh, he didn't say it, but that's
the
who
third eye is opening.
My Kyrie eye is open, baby. Right here, y'all. Third eye, baby. Right here. All right. So for me, Kevin Durant approaching the age that he's at, I think you don't want to put him in a spot where you put too much on him, where he has to absolutely carry the offense. I want him to be the guy where the ball swings to him and he can attack the double and attack a closeout, as opposed to staring down the barrel of all these other guys, not just the defender in front of me, but the help defender, the extra defender. Like, that's too much work for him to be doing at his age with the atrophy that's on his body. He's got an Achilles, an MCL, a Jones fracture. One of those things is a career killer. He's got all three. He's a walking medical marvel that he's still playing basketball, let alone playing basketball at a high level. So that's what I think. I think he should go to a place that makes the game easier for him. And I don't know if necessarily Golden State and all the drama and the scar tissue would be the best place for him.